Well, good afternoon to both Scott Baker and Sierra Holland. It's good to see you both.
Great to see you too.
Good to see you, Mikey. Thursday, November 6th, 3 o'clock. We're live in the Eastern time, and glad you're with us, everybody, for Lead Better. Talking about today's field note from Admired Leadership. It is, if you're counting, field note number 1610. And right before we started, Mikey was trying to talk to me and Sierra, and he was saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Yeah.
And it was his fault. Like, he's got a setting wrong. And
completely my fault, yes.
Sierra and I were perfectly technically ready for this, but Mikey wasn't. Now, I can say, sorry, I can't hear you. But today's field note is, sorry, I can't help you right
Yes,
now.
which you couldn't do. You couldn't help me.
No, we couldn't help. Yeah. And I'm sure both of you are like, wow, that was such a great instantaneous way of kind of trying to hook us in to the topic of today's field note. And now I would say that's like a 5.7 on a 10-point scale.
Yeah.
So that said, when I first got this field note, I was like, sorry, I can't help you right now. I thought this was going to be a field note about kind of what we talked about the other day when a leader says no. My team has to stay focused on their priorities. That's not what this one's about at all, right?
You assume that phraseology was the thing that we were talking about?
I thought it was going to be that, but in fact, what's interesting about this field note is that the headline, the title of the field note, is about the person who's not at all the person in the field note, right? Because it's about creating teams of people who would never say, "Sorry, I can't help you right now." Just kind of interesting.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this field note might be about time management, about when you're really good at your job or when you're a great leader, everybody wants to pick up the phone and call you, and how do you push that away? But I was pleasantly surprised to see that it was actually about how do we instill more collaborative behaviors within our team and create that expectation that, a win for one of us is a win for all of us, and this is how we contribute to each other's success.
Yeah, I'm glad you and I were thinking about this alike. Now, Mikey, I know you've worked in lots of environments and as a camp director and all kinds of things where you were trying to build collaboration. But it struck me that even at the heart of leadership being about getting groups of people to do things together, that on this word collaboration, I was trying to think, do I have like a really powerful file or a shelf of books? And I was like, I don't think there's a lot out there that seems to be like really like profound or inspiring. You'd be like, this makes me so excited about collaboration. So why is it, of all the topics, we like inspiration and motivation and decision making, there's all kinds of stuff. And then you go, collaboration. It's like, let's just.
I think that's what we should talk about. I think, especially when we're talking about the first 90 days that a manager is new to a role. I don't think any manager would say, I don't want a collaborative team. You look at this field note and you're talking about what it takes to build a collaborative team, one that works together well. And in any one of those 90-day kind of frameworks that you might have that says what to do and how to show up for those first 3 months, I don't know that I've ever seen anything that specifically, like going on a listening tour might kind of evoke the idea of collaboration, but it's not the behavior on collaboration.
Right.
So what is it? How do we do that?
Well, it's good that we have somebody who works in strategic communication on how to get organizations to have their people collaborate better.
Yes.
Sierra.
What's interesting is I have a few organizations I'm working with where collaboration is a core value and a behavior that they expect. There's this one team that is...
Now, was it a core value before they even talk to you? Was it just a word on the wall, or was it really a core value?
Too profound to get into, I think. But it was a core value, and they engaged us to make it even more embedded in their culture. But
wait a minute, are you saying that Mikey and I are not sophisticated enough to deal with your?
It's longer than the briefness of this podcast, so I want to make sure we're staying focused on the most important piece, which is in working with them, I have seen time and again the things that are important to collaboration. So the first thing that always comes up is communication, and I think collaboration and communication are far too broad as categories. So let's break it down. When we talk about communication in collaborative teams, information has to be shared openly and freely. And to communicate, you have to know, okay, who needs to know this information? Who needs to hear this first? Who needs to hear this second? How can we bring everybody together to get everybody on the same page? Because I might be talking with this key customer over here. I might be talking with this, patient community over here. How am I connecting the dots and bringing all of our insights together to make us a more collaborative and highly effective team? So communication is one piece. I have a lot of team members I've worked with where at the end of every day, they're going, okay, what did I learn today? Who from my collaborative team needs to know this? What helps in this one specific organization I'm thinking of is they have specific teams where it's an expectation that there's 8 different roles on this team, and they are expected to work together to solve certain problems, to get new client relationships, new customer relationships. They're expected to share insights to help build and forge new relationships. Something else that they do is say, one of them is tagged to this customer relationship. At the end of every conversation, they go, and why don't I set up time with my colleague over here?
Right. Yeah.
This person on your team should know this person on my team and continue this conversation. So there are so many communication related actions or behaviors that are really central to collaborative teams. The first one being sharing information openly. The second being, how can you create those individual connections across the team and not feel the pressure to hoard all of that, hoard all of the context for yourself. I think what gets in the way of collaboration is separate metrics. Often there's this lofty goal of collaboration, but the metrics are going to speak louder than words, louder than some value that's on the street. So if I'm being held to a certain number of customer conversations, if I'm held to a certain sales goal, if I'm held to a certain, number of subscriptions, then I might be more likely to hoard those contacts, those relationships. Collaborative teams need to have collaborative goals.
Yeah, and there would have to be mechanisms. Sorry, Mikey, to kind of incentivize that. There's a little crossover in what you just described, even with our own organization, which is people will build their own sort of world of business in what they're doing in either leadership coaching or strategic. But we actually make it a policy that there's a benefit to how you actually pass work to other people in the organization, so that there's a wider sharing of what you were just describing and saying, let me bring in a colleague. But just saying, hey, we want people to bring in colleagues, that maybe doesn't do it enough if the incentives aren't aligned. And it's not a bribery, right? It's just saying, you're not going to go plant seeds if you're a farmer if nothing's going to grow. So you're wanting to help people say, look, as you invest in your colleagues, this is how they benefit and this is how you benefit. And those are wonderful mechanisms to actually behavioralize and activate this.
Yeah. And they could be, and I know Mikey wants to get in, they could be metrics. They also can be rewards. This same team I'm thinking of, they have collaboration awards twice a year where collaborative teams get recognized for being collaborative.
Interesting.
And they get certain, reward benefits, recognition, because they are these people who have, really mastered what it's like to collaborate. But go ahead, Mikey. I know you were trying to get in.
No, I just had a question that was part of it was already answered by what you both had already said, but I'm wondering if collaboration is more of a product of your design, of your workforce, of your workplace, instead of it's a cultural element that kind of becomes a spin-off as a result of other things that you're doing. It's difficult to wrap your mind around what are the collaborative actions that you want people to take, right? So how you seat is almost more important than what you have people say or do.
It's interesting because when you're talking about design and team structure, are we structured to collaborate? I think that's an important question to ask.
Yeah.
But then also, how much do we really value relationships? And there is, are we valuing it for the right reasons and in the right places? And is it clear enough who you need to bring in? Because I can think of other clients or organizations I've worked with where in the vein of collaboration, it's endless cycles of buy-in, of revising, of let me workshop this PowerPoint deck with 10 different teams. That's not collaboration. That's, ineffectiveness. It's people that don't know how to work effectively. So when I'm thinking about collaboration, can we get that base level of collaboration, but not go so overboard that we're then redoing and moving more slowly. I can think of a couple teams I work with where collaboration, they've studied their results of when we take a collaborative sales approach, we are more successful. Like they have the numbers to show it, and that is how they've instilled this core belief that we need to have the right relationships and we need to work together toward these goals. But I've also seen the dark side of it when we're saying collaboration, but really we're just trying to make sure that, you know, we've gotten everybody's input, and we're almost tied by that level of input.
Yeah. Now, Mikey, did you find as a camp director, and I'm only asking you this question because I want to, you know, collaborate and include you in the conversation. There are people that will resist this. Like they are sort of like solo performers. Like they like the reward of like, you know, I want the credit for the stuff that I do. So you can imagine somebody could come into an organization and be like, I love being in this organization because I learned to be a better decision maker, or I learned to be more inspiring. Yes. I don't know that often you hear somebody say, I love that job because I came in and I just learned to be so much more collaborative. It would be like a weird sentence, but can you foster that in a way that then people actually feel that this is a huge value to them?
It was an early exercise that we would do with our summer staff all the time. And
staff, like before the kids got there.
Before the kids got there, there was like 40 of us that we recruited from colleges to come around. And the first thing that we would do was play this exercise that I'm hesitating to say out loud because I want to bring it to the firm.
I want to actually don't tell us
firm on Friday, and so our next firm meeting, and I want you to kind of be in a space where you understand it. And I probably have already said too much, right? But
you spoiled it.
Something that it was difficult when you're dealing with campers, kids, right? And there's roughly like a 6-to-1 ratio of number of staff to the number of kids that you have. You're constantly playing zone defense, right? But there are times where you want to play man on man, right? But most of the time it's zone defense. So to be able to create an environment where you trust people enough that they're basically indicating, I'm going to play man on man here for a second. So therefore, the 5 kids that I'm normally, the other 5 kids, I'm actually passing off. So somebody needs to be 11-on-1 for a half hour here.
Yeah.
Someone needs to, but you can't really explain it that way. You just kind of do it with hand signals, right? You kind of do it with a raised eyebrow, and then everybody else in the room knows exactly what you're talking about, and they're stepping up and they're adjusting in that kind of way. You see that happen fluidly on a basketball court, like in the way that we use the analogy, but unless you actually talk about it ahead of time and talk about the specific ways that we're not collaborating and the specific ways that would be great if we would collaborate, then that'd be, so the way I see it from our firm is that I'll see a request for help pop up on our team saying, I need a proofread, right?
Right.
Someone else chimes in within, and for whatever reason, in my mind, like that's my litmus test as to whether or not the firm is collaborating well. It's probably nowhere close to the right litmus test, right?
Yeah.
So like asking Sierra, who's actually deep involved with the teams that are actually providing services to multiple clients at different time, what is your signal for what real good collaboration inside the firm is taking place?
What a great question. So we use Teams a lot to coordinate. I'm on a bunch of different client projects where there are multiple people involved. And I think the litmus test for me is how quickly do we jump in, and when we're saying, you know, hey, can somebody cover this call? Can somebody join this meeting? Can somebody take the first pass at drafting this strategy, drafting this message set, drafting these talking points? And it's how long does that request linger out there in the group Teams chat? I mean, for us, it doesn't linger, thank goodness. Right. And the few times in my mind that I can think of when a request to a member of the team went unanswered, I mean, maybe 2 hours, but that's such a short period of time. I think it's much more likely that I'll hear from someone within a span of 5 minutes that somebody's ready to jump in and be willing to collaborate and work through something. And then the next question is, let's get on the phone, let's talk about it, let's make sure we're really on the same page before that next person does that work or joins that meeting so that we're on the same page. So I'd say my litmus test is, how quickly am I hearing back from someone that I'm working with closely? Though if you gave me more time, I could think of probably 10 others.
Well, look, I think you already set the stage pretty well for why this is important inside organizations and why, we kind of need to elevate the idea of what collaborate, how we define that in our own mind, so that it feels a little bit more not aspirational, but like just inspiring. Because again, I have a T-shirt that I sometimes wear that just says "compete" on it. I don't even compete very often, but you put it on the shirt and you're like, "Am I ready to compete?" And you can imagine having one to be like, "Be persuasive" or "Be a good decision maker," and but you're not often going to see somebody with a license plate that says "collaborate," right? Because what does that mean? So we should elevate that. But the key learning, I think, Sarah, is in a month from now when we have our firm meeting. And if Mikey is introduced at any point in front of the group, you and I should be sitting together near the back table.
Yes, it would be easier for you to not sabotage me if you were both on the same.
We could duck out the back door before the thing gets really, really weird. And everybody, you can join us for a Lead Better in like 30 days, maybe 45 days. And Sarah and I will be back on to be like, let's tell you what happened when Mikey started to experiment.
I'll be happy to
group.
explain the exercise afterwards, whether or not it failed or not. But it's going to be great.
Exactly.
It's going to be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks both. Bye now.
See you.